Right, this here is the, well, it's not really made by Panasonic, it's a fake Panasonic 1600, well, 16,000 or 16 ampere hour, 25.2 volt lithium ion battery that's come from China. And right off the mark, this came over Alibaba Express, and right off the mark the thing is faulty. So I contacted the company over Alibaba Express, and they're not replying to me because it was a few days over the period, like about a week after it was delivered to me. And they basically just don't reply. Now, this thing, it's been giving weird results. Sometimes basically it charges up 24, 25 volt charger. This thing here came with it. No real issues there. I should draw this out on a piece of paper so I can get my head around it. But you see, they're basically welded up in parallels. So you've got to strip right down this side. Strip right down this side. Now I've cut that one there because I've been doing some investigating in case a couple of cells were faulty. So basically it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so it's 6 strips of batteries. All welded up in parallel. So you've got negative here running through a set of 6 batteries through to this side. Then that side is connected back onto this side here. Yeah, and they're connected to this side, and then all in parallel back to this side here, and then that side there is all, you know, fed in parallel, and that bank there then connects through to this side, and then that side back through there over to this side, and that side back here, and then up to the positive. So this is your positive supply out, and your positive charging point in, and over here is the negative point out of the battery, but is also the feed back into the battery management system, BMS, here. So basically you've got the negative as with a sorry, bit of coronavirus here. No, only kidding, I haven't got that, just my throat a bit dry. Yeah, so we've got the negative here, and as with a lot of FET type components, they tend to be switched on and off at the negative terminals of batteries rather than on the positives. So the supply out of the battery runs into the BMS here, and then feeds out of it here. That is marked, I think, I can't quite make that out, minus D. I don't know. I know it's got C minus there, which I presume is charge negative. Yeah, so that's the negative supply in from the charger here, and the positive supply in from the charger goes directly there. So I've been looking at this thing, and wondering what's actually going on with it, where the fault is, because at the moment it's pumping out 20 volts instead of 24. So it would seem like one bank of these batteries is faulty, and I've sort of been plumbing for this very last one, because when I'm doing tests across it, if I was to, let's see, which is my, yeah, so this is my negative side here. So if I slip that in there, I should be using crocodile clips here. If I wedge that into there, tell you what, I'm just gonna slip it gently in there, yeah. When we put out, of course the battery falls off. Should be using crocodile clips, as I said. Don't want to cause any explosions or short outs. Right, so if we go here, there's 0.13 of a volt there. 0.3 volt there. So this is because I've got the charger on it at the moment though. If I was to disconnect that charger and do a measurement, no, it's still 0.13 and 0.3 down there. You see, I suspected that I had a fault down here on these last two cells because they looked a little bit dodgy. There was a bit of rust and they looked a little bit odd, not very good quality, so I've snipped across that point down there. So this is hence why I got the charger on. So what I've been doing is taking some voltage measurements around this thing. So if I stick my positive wire in there to the meter and I come to cruddy blow, I should have croc clips here, and I go across there, we do have 20 volts. It just jumps on my scale. There we go, 20 volts. Now if I put the charger in, it should be about 24, I think. Yeah, 25 volts, okay. So we've got 25 volts, that's because we've got the 25 volt supply going straight into the unit. So if I go on the other side of the BMS, which is the output of the BMS here, and I connect my power wire back on again, which keeps falling out. Right, if I go up here, right, we see 20 volts. So basically the BMS is losing, it's got a 4 volt drop inside there. It's losing 4 volts across the BMS. So is the BMS actually faulty? Is it not allowing that current to come out? And if that is the case, that it's not allowing enough voltage to flow out, it's basically a resistance. It's dropping 4 volts inside its circuit. So if this is faulty, would I be able to fault this by moving that input charge wire there and connecting it directly to the negative and charging it, so charging the full unit up at 25 again, and seeing if the unit actually charges up. See if the BMS is causing the fault. I'm very tempted to say to do this, but I've never messed around with these things before. But I know you've got to be careful with these lipos so that they don't explode and cause fires and all sorts of things. So I'm slightly apprehensive about doing it, because it's not like a lead acid battery. The whole point of the BMS is it's there to as a safety component. So you don't want to dick around, particularly if you're not if you don't know what you're doing with it. But I'm extremely tempted to say, if I put the charger directly across, that I'd be able to fault whether the cells are okay. You see, I can get a replacement BMS probably for about £8 and just put it in, and it would probably be a better quality one than this one. And that's an easy fix. Like, I can repair that. I can basically just bend that back down and solder it up, put a little bit of copper wiring probably across it and patch that. Hence why I've snipped it just there. It was a bit of a snip to see if those cells were pulling down the last section. But I'm tempted to say it's a BMS issue here, which was my initial thought. But someone had said that it could be the batteries, a bank of the batteries, or one of the batteries pulling it down. See, I'm not really sure how this thing works out. It's definitely losing 4 volts across there, and these white wires are just the sense wires to take measurements, as far as I know. Hence why they're called sense and not charge or whatever. They're sense wires, so they take basic measurements at midpoints through the battery. So it's like where they are paralleled or ganged together. See where the negatives connect to the positives, where they're strapped together like so. That's where these sense wires are wired to. So there's 2 on this side and 3 sense wires on that side. Well, the red one there, the very last one, that's probably also a sense wire, I'm guessing. So there's 3 on each side. So it's 6 sense wires. Yeah. I think that's basically it, 6 sense wires. It could be that there's 7, because we might, if we take it as this little socket along the top here, it actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Yeah, it's got 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 of them. So it's got the 3. Sorry, it's got the 5 whites and then a red and a black. So it does actually have 7. So the last sense wire for the circuit is obviously connected to the negative, but via the coupling on the board there, if you see. So they're basically 7 sense wires. So that must be what these boards on eBay and so on, the BMS controllers with 7 sense wires are meaning. So basically that's it. So that's how it would do. So this is 25.2 volt unit, 7 sense wires, and I want a decent current output. Yeah, so anyway, so I'm tempted to say shift that wire from the BMS, pop it over to there. Hopefully doing that won't cause the BMS to fail. Well, I think it's already failed, to be honest. Just wondering what to do in terms of, in case the BMS isn't faulty, is there a way I should protect this? I suppose I would have to just, oh yeah, I can unplug the connector there, and that would probably give a fair isolation to the BMS. So unsolder that there, connect that over to the charger point there, and unplug that, and then see if the whole unit does actually charge up to 25 volts. I think that's a bit of a reasonable point to have a go at. Yeah, okay.